It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming Thursday, which means, of course, I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel-flavored mustard. Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
Just tip your head back and just squirt that right in. No chewing involved.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Some really nice days ahead. Today's going to be nice for most of Wyoming. We get into Friday and Saturday. Oh, yeah. The whole weekend is supposed to be just absolutely gorgeous. Next week, a little messed up, but we'll talk about that. Don Day's extended forecast, of course, at 6:45. At 7:45, I have him on the air live where we talk about all of these things. So, all right. Yesterday, I started you with some quotes from some people that are just beyond stupid. I'm sorry. I hate to do that to people, but they are. This time, I want to play something for you. It's the President of the United States. I was wondering yesterday while I'm on the air, I kept looking over at the ridiculously large television they put in my studio. And what's all the pomp and circumstance here at the White House? Oh, the Japanese Prime Minister is in for a visit. So they have all of the pomp and ceremony going on, and Biden goes out to speak in front of the Japanese Prime Minister. So, okay. Now you're hearing some quotes cutted from that on radio and television news today. But there's part of it that they're leaving out. And this is where I wish news media would pay a little bit more attention to this. It's a bit embarrassing, I know, but it's something that the American people should see. And my thought is if they were really interested in news, they would play stuff like this. So here's President Biden. He's now taking questions. There's the Japanese Prime Minister right next to him, and the president is taking questions from the press. Now, you know a president is on the ball if he doesn't need any notes. He can just point to a reporter, yeah, what do you got? And the reporter asks a question, and he just answers the question. That's when you know you've got somebody really sharp and on the ball, then he can just handle the media that way. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know? What's your question? And just answer the question, just off the cuff. This president, though, is scripted. The questions are submitted in advance. Only approved questions make it through. Then they write an answer for Biden, and everybody's supposed to stay on script. Is that really a press conference? Okay, here's how this sounded as the president lost track of who he was instructed to call on next.
Next question. Who do I call on next? Hang on a second. I got my list here. Hang on. I apologize. Aurelia of AFP.
Okay. Now, is that supposed to happen? My thought is no. I want to see a president. This is how I know that a president's on the ball. Whether I agree with the guy or not, politically, socially, not the issue. I want a president who doesn't have to rely on a scripted press conference. Let's go through this again. Every question is submitted in advance. Only approved questions make it through. Those approved questions, they will write an answer for so the reporter has to ask the question as was submitted. I wonder if they edit it a little bit for the reporter. But anyway, the reporter has to ask a question as submitted, maybe as edited too. The president will answer the question by going off what was put in front of him. So I ask again, is that what a press conference is supposed to be? Let's listen again.
Next question. Who do I call on next? Hang on a second. I got my list here. Hang on. I apologize. Aurelia of AFP.
Okay. And I wonder why news media across America isn't objecting to this. This is not something that's atypical. It's very typical, in fact, of this particular president. And I wonder, I don't know, maybe behind the scenes they have objected to it, but I would like to see them object to it more publicly. We would really like the president to unscripted take questions and unscripted answer questions, which is why during a typical, whenever the president steps up to make a speech somewhere and the press is there, even if it's just the press corps where the president's going to make a statement, president walks out, makes his statement, reads from the teleprompter, really, and then turns and walks away. That's very typical of the press being called to an event. If he does answer questions, it's like what you just saw there. Everything is laid out and scripted in advance. That tells me he doesn't have the ability to just stand there and answer questions. He is being handled, which is why I didn't want him to be, well, there's a list of reasons, but that's one of the reasons why I didn't want him to be president in the first place, and don't think he can possibly make it through a second term. There's no way. Oh, Jim in Casper sends me a note. Only in a totalitarian communist dictatorship. There's that, and there's certainly that. But also, Jim, in cases when you have a president who can't handle it, when you have a president who is not capable of just listening to questions and answering them off the cuff. That's why I say, even if it's a president that I disagree with, and there have been quite a few that I flat out don't agree with anything that they're saying, but at least they had the cognitive ability to just turn to the press and say questions. And anybody can just throw up whatever they want, and they'll just go ahead and answer it. Yesterday, I was at a luncheon. After I got off the air here, I went to a luncheon, which it was representatives from around the area in the Wyoming House and Senate. And they talked about this last legislative session. It was really interesting after they got up and made statements. There were some prepared questions because it was done by a local Chamber of Commerce. And so they answered the questions that were presented by the Chamber of Commerce, which they had in advance. But then after that, okay, well, we have a whole room full of people here because we just had lunch. So there's a whole room full of people here. Anybody have any questions? Then there's somebody running around with a microphone, right? And some people ask some very good and tough questions. And our Wyoming legislators just stood up after hearing the question and just answered it. Now, again, off the cuff. They don't know what's coming at them. They had no idea when the microphone's being passed around. And a couple of the questions were really tough. But our Wyoming legislators, whether you agreed with them or not, just stood up and said, well, my opinion is. Boom. There you go. That's how you handle a press conference, not what we're seeing here with the president. And again, I would love the media to start raising holy hell about this. But here again, you have a president, I believe, who cannot handle a real press conference.
My back hurts from carrying the weight of being my mom's most badass child.
Serious politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, some good news, but... By the way, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Pacific Corp extends Wyoming coal and gas power and reduces wind and solar. That's here in Wyoming and a few other states. So Pacific Corp is the parent company of Rocky Mountain Power. They've just issued changes to their energy strategy. This news from Pacific Corp is the opposite of what we've been told the energy trends were going to be. So they have decided to scale back, not end, but scale back on wind and solar while increasing the productivity of their coal and gas plants. That'll be done by expanding, well, for example, we have the Jim Bridger Norrington plant and Wyandotte facilities in Wyoming and some power plants in Utah, for example. Just some of the places they own power plants. This is partly due to Wyoming laws requiring utilities to keep carbon capture and storage technology. That's to appease those people who believe that CO2 is a pollutant and causing a climate crisis. You appease them, you can keep these power plants online, mainly the Biden administration, right? But as you know, carbon capture is expensive, and that's going to raise your utility rates, right? All right, so it will cost about $1 billion per capture unit, up to $1 billion per capture unit, which will be passed on to you, the ratepayer. So while wind and solar farms will expand around the region, but nowhere near at the same rate through PacifiCorp anyway. And that will continue as long as the federal government continues to subsidize it. Because as you know, wind and solar exists because of heavy subsidies, which coal and natural gas and so on don't get. Now, of course, I don't need to remind you, but let's throw it out there. We're as a nation, $35 trillion in debt. And your government is borrowing nearly $1 trillion a year just to pay the interest on the debt. So there's concerns about how long those subsidies can last, and the answer would be not forever. When we include all the unfunded liabilities and so on, we're about $214 trillion in debt. So there's no way they can keep this up. And you know what happens when the subsidies run out. So the North American Electricity Reliability Corporation monitors America's electric grid. They say that many areas of the country face a growing risk of blackouts and brownouts due to unreliability of wind and solar. In fact, some people pointed out on this program last weekend there was a really bad windstorm in southeast Wyoming and also down into Colorado. So let's remind these folks what kept the power on during those windstorms. It was really cloudy, so the solar panels didn't do any good. Not really, anyway. And because it was so windy, the wind turbines had to be faced in a way, their blades faced in a way that they couldn't turn. Because there's no way they'd be able to handle this. They wouldn't be able to handle it. So it wasn't wind and solar that was providing electricity through a springtime storm. And we know the same thing happens when we get into wintertime, for example. Temperatures drop into the negatives, especially at night. And it's not wind and solar that's keeping us warm. In the summertime, when it gets really hot, it's not wind and solar that's keeping the power on. So states like, there's 11 states, Alaska, Arizona, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maryland, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Utah, and Wyoming, are all looking at a bill. There is a website where it's called ALEC. And what ALEC basically is when someone introduces a bill, they can put it on that website so other states can have a look at it. Hey, do you want to adopt this too? It's called the Electric Generation Facility Closure and Reliability Act. Bills usually get long, ridiculous names. So, one, this is in the bill. American families and industries depend on reliable and affordable electricity for everything they do, from life-saving medical equipment to life-saving building climate control. I hate it when, climate control as inside your house. Climate control, not as in on the planet. Electricity demands must be met with supply within minutes or else interruptions in service. 240 coal plants, which produced 22% of American electricity in 2021, are being targeted for closure by activist groups and federal regulators and utilities, with dozens across the nation set for closure in the upcoming year. 71,000 wind towers produced 9% of America's electricity in 2021. 6,000 a year are added, and at least 150,000 more. But it goes on to show that this is never going to produce reliable energy. As we've seen, just to pick one place, California, which tried to go all wind and solar, and their electricity prices have skyrocketed, and the reliability of power has plummeted. And so they had to turn back on some natural gas plants and keep some nuclear plants running. in order to have the energy also at some kind of a reliable cost. I continue, if I could continue reading on into the bill, but you get the idea. These are the states, and I'll name the states again because there's a list of them, 11. Alaska, Arizona, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maryland, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Utah, and Wyoming, all looking at this bill, which would be, in effect, ensuring that we will have reliable power through coal power and natural gas and not shutting it down. So this is part of the reason that Pacific Corp here in our area, again, parent company of Rocky Mountain Power, have changed their energy strategy. They're not giving up on wind and solar, but they're de-emphasizing it. Coming up on local news, update on your weather forecast right after that, then you and I get back into it. Your regional weather forecast with Don Day is coming up at 6:45. That's the extended one, which shows a couple of really nice days. Get into next week, and that forecast is going to change up a little bit. Just get colder and unpredictable, which is typical for springtime. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 Woods. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97 Woods and make your voice heard. AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Thursday. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. I didn't know this, but was it last month or the month before? I think it was in February. I remember, of course, the reason for the breakup of the Beatles, not entirely, but in good part, was Yoko Ono. She is, believe it or not, 91 years old now. And her voice sounds as good as ever. That's her trying to sing. I'm sorry. Hang on a second before I continue with this. Management makes me do this. I'm going to pick on someone, and you're going to be with me on this. So we all have to do the whole be nice thing. Ready?
Courteous, kind, and forgiving.
Courteous, kind, and forgiving.
Be gentle and peaceful each day.
Gentle, peaceful.
Be warm and human and grateful.
Grateful, yeah.
And have a good thing to say.
Or don't say anything at all.
Be thoughtful and trustful and childlike.
I'm always immature, not a
Be
problem.
witty and happy and wise.
Yeah, wise, well.
Be honest and love all your neighbors.
Except for that one jerk up the road.
Be obsequious, purple and clairvoyant. Be pompous, obese, and eat cactus.
Love cactus.
Be dull and boring and omnipresent.
Never boring on this program.
Criticize things you don't know
That's
about.
all I do on this program.
Put a live chicken in your underwear.
Carl.
Put a live chicken in your underwear. Go into a closet and suck eggs. Go into a closet and suck eggs.
Okay, so let's get back to this. So I just figured, I didn't know that Yoko Ono is 91 years old. Now, and then I played this clip for you. Sounds like someone's strangling a cat, right? Okay. This is back when Yoko Ono was first with the Beatles and really messing up some people who were already messed up anyway, including John Lennon. And they had her on stage. And John Lennon is not playing his guitar, which he was really extraordinarily good at. I think you can agree. He was just taking his guitar and just rubbing it up and down against his boot. John Lennon was doing that. Paul McCartney was in the background just beating the hell out of the drums. And there's Yoko sitting there, and they're on stage, too. There's an audience. And she's just making those strangling cat noises, which I'll do it one more time, then I'll get rid of it. Sounded like this. This is what it sounded like. Okay, there's more to it than that, but no. This reminds me of when I take a look at what's supposed to be called modern art. You know, when they take a canvas and they just splash some paint on it and then tell you it's worth $20,000. That anybody can take a bunch of paint and splash canvas with it. That's not $20,000. In fact, I can get. There was some artwork that recently sold for millions, like 20-some million. And it was a huge canvas, and somebody had taken a paintbrush and scribbled on it in this just circle scribble, in the same way a toddler would have. If you'd given a toddler a crayon and a piece of paper, the same thing would have happened. Yet somehow this is worth like $20 million. So the noise you just heard from Yoko Ono and from John Lennon and Paul McCartney, John and Paul are actually brilliant musicians. Oh, as you know, I mean, obviously. But this is what they were doing. And somehow we were supposed to be impressed that this is art. And this is the part that really gets me. And if you weren't impressed that it was art, then you just don't get it. You're not sophisticated enough to understand what they're doing. Okay, you're not mature enough, smart enough, or sophisticated enough to understand what they're doing. That's what they'll try to tell you and convince you of. And, of course, the real answer to this is they are not showing any talent. They're not doing anything. They're just making a whole bunch of noise, and we're supposed to be impressed with that. Well, you remember the story, of course, of the Emperor Has No Clothes. I wonder, is that taught in schools anymore? Because I remember that being taught to me several times when I was going through elementary school, the story of the Emperor Has No Clothes. So 91 years old, if we were to ask Yoko, let's put this in air quote, to sing today, she would sound every bit as good, more air quotes, as she did way back then at 91 years old. I'm hoping, I did come across, there's a music store in Cheyenne, Wyoming that sells old, vintage, if you will, albums. And I did come across a couple of Yoko Ono albums, which I guarantee you she has never sold out of that store.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, do you know what cicadas are?
Yes, and there's going to be 1 billion in northern Illinois.
Oh, wow.
2 broods.
Yes.
One from 17 to 17 years and the 13 years at the same time.
Yep. And
1 billion.
Yes, and I'm glad you're up on this. Now, nationwide, it's going to be bigger than that, and, man, it's going to get noisy out there. My family's got that cabin in the Carolina Mountains, and that's really heavily, thickly wooded and bushes and so on. It's bad enough when we hit every 17 years or 13 years. It gets noisy, day and night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's kind of like they talk to each other, too.
Well,
they make noise over here, and then like over there, and then they start making noise.
Yeah, it's,
and then they go back over here, and they make noise.
Essentially, that's the cicada version of, hey, baby.
Hello and goodbye. Yeah. Hey,
come over here for a minute.
Hey.
Okay, so here is one of my solutions to this problem. Soft-shelled cicadas recipe, 1 cup of Worcestershire sauce.
I'm not eating any of that.
60 freshly emerged 17-year cicadas. 4 eggs beaten. Plus, I would bet 60 freshly beaten cicadas is my thought. But 3 cups of flour, salt, pepper, season, a cup of corn oil. Marinate cicadas alive.
Okay.
Instead of in a sealed container.
I'm sure that's a hot item on the menu in West Virginia.
Yes. I think, and then dip them in the eggs there and season flour. Basically, you're making some sort of a,
what are you making?
I guess it's a lot like if you're eating an onion ring, but it's got cicadas in it, right? But I think the only thing...
Are they crunchy?
I would bet if you're going to boil them like that it would be kind of crunchy, because I don't see them taking it out of the shell.
It's like, I can tell you they're crunchy because I've stepped on them.
Okay, yes. Out of anger, I'm going to bet, right?
And then you sweep them up like leaves.
Yes. So I think the only thing Frank, that's missing out of this recipe.
It's ketchup.
No. Then serve them to your friends without telling them what they are. Because you should not be eating this stuff. Now,
see, they like it.
Who knows? Maybe, as often is the case, there's a lot of bugs out there that do contain a lot of proteins. Which can be good for you, but nobody wants to go ahead and eat bugs. But anyway, one possibility for those people who are just sick of them, you can go out there and kill them. Mm-hmm. I prefer a flamethrower, as a way to do it. Or you can just go ahead and serve them up if you want to do that. Or finally, the cheapest solution, Frank, earplugs.
Yes. High school soccer from last night. First for the boys, Cheyenne East over Cheyenne South 4-1. And tonight, Cheyenne Central will be in Laramie. On the girls' side, East and South played to a scoreless draw last night. And tonight, Laramie will be at Cheyenne Central. Our latest Wyoming Preps high school soccer poll is out in 4A boys. Cheyenne Central rated first, Kelly Walsh second, Jackson third, Thunder Basin fourth, and Sheridan fifth. In 4A girls, Kelly Walsh ranked number one, followed by Jackson, Laramie, and Latrobe and Campbell County. In 3A boys, Worland ranked number one, Torrington 2, Cody 3, Powell 4, and Green River 5. And in 3A girls, Coley leads the list, followed by Worland, Green River, Powell, and Douglas. Girls high school softball, Cheyenne Central over Cheyenne South yesterday 19-8. And in our latest Wyoming Preps poll for the ladies on the diamond, Cheyenne East rated number one, Thunder Basin 2, Campbell County 3, Cody 4, and Laramie 5. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies are 3-10 to start the year after a 5-3 loss to Arizona yesterday in Denver. Rockies got a decent pitching game-wise from Austin Gomber, who threw 6 innings. He gave up 2 runs and 6 hits. Rockies bullpen failed them, allowing 2 runs in the top of the ninth as the Diamondbacks held on for that win. Colorado has the day off. They'll be in Toronto tomorrow. The Masters Golf Tournament starts today in Augusta, Georgia, but the start has been delayed due to storms in the area. Scotty Scheffler is the world's number 1 rated player and is favored to win the tournament, which is a lot easier said than done. Yes, Tiger Woods is playing this year. It's a matter, he probably won't win it, and we'll see if he even makes the cut. He won the Masters 5 times in his career, but has incurred numerous injuries and surgeries. Coming up tomorrow on College Rodeo, the Central Wyoming Fairgrounds will host the 68th annual Roping and Rigging Days put on by Casper College. There will be 2 slack rounds, one tomorrow afternoon at 1, and then Saturday at 10 a.m. Then the first night performance will be tomorrow at 6 p.m., and then Saturday at 6 p.m. The last perf will be at 10 a.m. on Sunday. There's only 2 rodeos left in the Central Rocky Mountain region season, and the College National Finals Rodeo will be in Casper from June the 9th through the 15th.
Tiger Woods is 48 years old now.
48, yeah. So, he's in there.
Yes.
He looks, in shape.
Okay.
But I don't think he has a chance.
Okay.
I mean, I think his best golf was years and years and years ago.
Right.
These young guys, in their 20s and their 30s, they hit the ball a mile.
Sure.
And they're, so if he makes the cut within, after 2 rounds being within 10 strokes of the lead, I think that's a major accomplishment for him.
Yeah.
There's all these surgeries, especially when he had that auto accident.
Oh, yeah.
And, his leg got all screwed up. He almost could barely walk. But you know what? He's out there.
At his peak, if he showed up and was having a good day, all the other golfers might as well just go home.
And they say, we can't compete with this guy.
Right, and then at that same time in his career, if he was having a bad day, then he would still be as good as all of the best on the field.
And we still can't compete with this guy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So, I look at him now and I feel bad that he went through such hard times with that.
Well, he can't be short of cash.
No, you never know, because there's some people, like Michael Jackson died broke.
No way.
Yes, he did, yeah. So some people don't know how to manage their money. I have no idea with Tiger Woods. I hope he's doing financially okay.
Me too, yeah.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local, update on the weather forecast. Another scandal at public radio, which renews my call to defund public radio, even here in Wyoming. I'll explain next hour. Wake Up Wyoming. Six of time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Thursday, and I swear I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by pretzel flavored mustard. Why eat the pretzel when when you can just eat the mustard.
Just dip your head back, squirt it in, and don't even have to chew. Just there you go. It's all in one thing. Now, I do have a story here ready to go, but a little sidetrack. I was listening to News Top of the Hour, and they mentioned inflation, and there's different numbers for inflation, but the wholesale price index, things went up. Okay, so while the president will continue to say, well, it's not that bad. I mean, we've reduced inflation. He'll try to say we reduced inflation by 60%. What really is going on is things are still inflating and faster than they should be. It is not as bad at as the beginning of the president's term, but it is still inflating bad. And those numbers need to come way down. Now, just a quick example of this. I'm sure you have your own examples. But yesterday something happened to me, which I thought, I hate to do this. First off, every so often I would get off work, and on my way home, I'd swing by a Subway. There's actually, depending on what I had to do, there were several different Subways I would go by. And they are, while they're a chain, but they're also a franchise, so there's local ownership there. And there's also, of course, local employees. So I would swing in, and some of these people got used to seeing me. Wouldn't do it every day, but enough that they began to recognize me. And I always got the same thing. On wheat bread, 6-inch tuna. I like to have some, not lettuce, but instead I like to have spinach on there, right? And then some tomato and a little bit of onion, and we're good. Also, when it comes to the meal deal, I would get this little bag of Sun Chips. I like the Sun Chips. And then a small drink. Now that, for quite a while, was just like a tad over $4, including tax. Which is why, occasionally, okay. But then that price started to go up. Until eventually one day I showed up and $19? $19 for that. No. I can't do that anymore. I'm not going to. Even if I was making double the amount that I'm making now, I'm not doing that. That's just horrible. And I hate to do that because, again, the restaurants are locally owned. And then we have the local employees. I really don't want to do that to them. So yesterday, I'm heading home, and I get a note, hey, can you just pick up something for dinner? Sure. What the heck? And I wouldn't say where, but I pulled into this little place just to get a burger. You know, the basic meal. Burger, fries, drink. Right? For 2 people. That's it. And it was to give you an idea, though. It's not a Burger King and it's not a McDonald's, but still, just a regular fast food chain. I'm right by it anyway. Burger, fries, drink, whatever, fine. I normally eat a lot healthier than that. If you take a look at what I do eat, I'm kind of picky, and I do eat some very good food. But I'm on my way home. I'm just going to grab something. Including tax, $40. And I went, what the heck? I can't do this anymore. Even if I was making twice as much money as I am right now, I'm not doing this anymore. This is absolutely insane. No, stop. That's enough. The prices have gone so high that I do find myself, it was for the longest time, when I would go to the grocery store, I wouldn't bother to take a look at what the price of something was. I just bought what I wanted. And again, since I'm a little more picky, I have to get my fruit, right? And I would go and buy different things that I like that I know that are good for me. But it costs whatever it costs. I don't really care. Now, though, when I go through the store, and I wonder, you're probably doing the same thing. As I walk through, I start to stop and go, so how much is that? I don't know. Is it cheaper over at this store over here? What if I did this instead of that? Maybe I can't eat this anymore because the price is too high. I've heard people complain that a tub, and I had someone yesterday, I said a tub of butter can be like $9. And someone said to me, if it's in a tub, it's not butter. Yeah. Butter's in a stick. Oh, okay. If you say so, whatever the case is. But for people who buy stuff like that, they're just complaining, man, I can't even get butter anymore. The prices are so high. Meantime, We're listening to the Biden administration saying, oh, inflation's just fine. Remember when it was transitory? We're told it's a transitory thing. It's going away. What happened to that? We did get a dip in gas prices for a little while. That was nice. But still, even when they were at their lowest, those prices were still too high. They're nowhere down near to where they should be, even at their lowest. But now they're way back up again, which does make me look and say, you know, there were at times I would get on, it's weekend, and, geez, I think I'll go ahead and take a road trip because I like to explore. There's some places I haven't been. I think I'll go there. Well, those trips have gotten shorter and not as frequent. Just because I look at the price of gasoline and I go, wow, really? What used to be, hey, let's just go up the road and see whatever, right? Now, let's not do it every weekend. Let's not road trip every weekend. That's just, and do we have to go so far? You see what I'm saying? Now, some of what I'm explaining to here is first world problems, because there are the places around the world that, hey, they would be lucky to get some food today. They would be lucky to have a car at all. And I'm just talking about cutting back and not spending as much on frilly things like I used to. Like, hey, I'm out here, I'm hungry, I'll stop at grab a tuna sandwich somewhere, right? And even, well, I'm not going to road trip as much. That's first world problems. There are people, even in America, prices are high enough for them that they worry about getting to work in the morning or what's going to be for dinner at all tonight. So I have to put my problems in perspective. Where I cut way back, there's other people who are wondering how they're going to do it all. In the meantime, we're taking a look at prices that just keep going up and up and up and up. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We can go through all sorts of different reasons for that. But one of the biggest ways to reduce prices, to bring it down, let's go back to when George W. Bush was president. Hurricane Katrina had hit New Orleans. And in that area, there's 2 oil refineries that were taken offline because of the hurricanes. So while they were being repaired, that means prices of gasoline suddenly skyrocketed. Now, George W. grew up in the oil business, so he knew what to do. He knew that around the country, we have all these different blends of gasoline for every single market because there's all these different states and even counties and cities that have their different rules on what kind of gasoline they want based on what they think they need to do to save the planet. So the president signed a temporary executive order that said for the next 6 months or so, everybody's getting the same grade of gasoline. I don't care what your local, policies are. We're all getting the same grade of gasoline for the next few months. And the price immediately dropped a lot. Just get rid of some rules and regulations and watch the prices drop. And that can be said in large part for one of the most, when it comes to administrations with their executive orders, which this president said he wasn't going to do, and also what's coming out of the EPA and other government agencies. So many rules and regulations being piled on. It's jacking up the price of everything. And that includes not just creating whatever it is you want to buy, but transporting whatever it is you want to buy. Prices continue to go up, and yet they keep piling on more regulations. Even here in the state of Wyoming, where they want to get into carbon sequestration, which is just going to continue to raise your utility rates without any effect or help on anything, much less the climate, nothing else. But things like this just keep raising the price of everything, making your life, which should be very affordable, unaffordable. I-80 John. Morning, Glenn. I would still rather drive than deal with the nonsense that is flying in today's environment. Yeah, that's true. 7:16 is the time. Wake up.
Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Morning, Dan's in Cheyenne. Maybe Biden doesn't remember what the prices were yesterday, so he doesn't know there is inflation. Now, actually, he doesn't know there's inflation because he's been so far removed from the average person's economy for most of his life. He doesn't really understand what's going on out here. So to turn to America and say, the economy's doing great, inflation is fine. Well, you don't live out here, so you don't know. Somebody's feeding you a line there, Mr. President, and he has no clue. All right, something that a while back, I had done a little op-ed piece where I had said that Wyoming public media, among others around the country, well, just in general, public television, public radio, needs to be defunded. And the reason I said that, years ago, when I'm very young, I used to consume all sorts of news because I was a dork that way. And I did listen to public radio and watch public TV for their news. And at the time, they were actually, they were left-leaning, but they were actually pretty balanced compared to today. They actually did offer other points of view and had discussions on things, which I enjoyed consuming that version of news and opinion. But then as the years went by, they just got worse and worse and more one-sided to the point that I eventually turned it off. Now, here in Wyoming, every day as I go through every bit of news that comes out in Wyoming, every morning, I look at Wyoming public media and what they do. And as they post news on their websites and stories they deliver on air and so on, I look at it and I think, wow, talk about just one-sided. They act as if there's only one acceptable point of view on any given topic. And if you say otherwise, well, you're just wrong. And so they don't offer any other balance to their news, which is why years ago, many years ago, if they want to continue, not just Wyoming public media, but NPR and public television in general, they just need to do it without government subsidies. They make enough money through donations and other things that they don't need government subsidies anymore. Let them just go private. Now, the original intention of public media was there was a time here out west, for example, where there wasn't much for television or radio or newspapers. Some communities had absolutely nothing. And so that's why they offered public radio and public TV as a government project to get news and information way out west and other places like that were so rural. But that's not a problem anymore. That's obsolete because it doesn't matter where you are. You can get news and information off your phone, or even if you're in a cell dead zone, which there aren't many left, satellite, it's so easy to do. So they're completely obsolete, but watch people yell and scream when we talk about defunding public radio and public TV. Well, there was an op-ed written. Some of you may have heard about this recently. Yuri Berliner is his name. He has been working with public radio and TV for 25 years. He's a very respected reporter. He just recently released an op-ed, which got him on all sorts of different news organizations as part of the discussion, and some people just hate him. But even though he's been working in public media for 25 years, he began to notice how one-sided it was. So in Washington, D.C., in the offices of public media there's 87 employees, all of which describe themselves as left-wing Democrats, liberal Democrats. And there's not a single conservative or libertarian or anything else. And he pointed out to people he's working with there, so where's the diversity? What he said in his op-ed was, what happened was even scarier. They didn't get angry. It was worse than that. There was complete indifference. Their reaction was, well, good, because there's only that one point of view. He writes in his opinion piece, an open-minded spirit no longer exists within NPR. And now, predictably, we don't have an audience that reflects America, which is one of the reasons why some time ago I wrote a piece as to why Wyoming, if we send any money from the state to Wyoming public media, we need to stop because they don't reflect anything that Wyoming does. their very one-sided point of view. Now, in the story that I put up this morning on Wake Up Wyoming's website it shows my original article, but also an article in the interview with this gentleman who works for NPR. Now, a while ago, about a year ago, there is a state out there, it was Oklahoma, that passed a bill that would they had a bill to continue to bankroll Oklahoma public radio and TV, and the governor vetoed it. No more money for them because they don't reflect what Oklahoma is. And I'm looking at this to happen not just with other states, but with our federal government as well. So again, if they want to be a left-wing opinion organization, that's absolutely right. Keep doing what they're doing. They get enough money through not just donations. Do you understand how much money Sesame Street makes? Sesame Street makes a lot of money through marketing, all of the toys and clothes and et cetera, lunch boxes, et cetera, et cetera. Sesame Street makes a ton of money. And so do many other programs with public radio and public television. But they outserved their purpose a long time ago, and they got rid of anybody that had a divergent opinion a long time ago. And that's not just on the national scale, but on the local scale as well. So I'm glad they had this one guy he's really causing a stir right now. One guy stepped up and said, really, I've been working here for 25 years, and only one point of view is accepted, and nobody else is even allowed to work here if they have any other point of view. That's essentially what he said. He's enjoyed his 25 years there, but it's not the same place that he worked at originally 25 years ago. And that's, here again, I am for just defunding the whole thing. Just make it all go away. Defund it all. And then if public radio and television can continue to exist, which they should be able to, as a private organization, then fine. But there's absolutely no reason that taxpayer money should continue to be dumped into this organization, especially when they no longer serve the purpose or reflect the values of so many people, well, even here way out west, don't even begin to serve our values. Coming up on some local news, update on your weather forecast after that. Then you and I again. Don Day's on at 7:45. He's going to talk about just a gorgeous weekend. Enjoy it while you can, because next week, it's mixed up a lot. But it's springtime. That's what happens. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I've got Don Day on at 7:45, and he'll talk about the next few days are just stunning. I mean, it's get outside kind of weather. And then next week, not, but we need the wet anyway. So, okay. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. I did mention inflation last half hour. Well, came across this story. Inflation pushing up rents, garbage collection, electricity. Everything. Story says inflation has sent costs of maintaining a household soaring. Rent, electricity, garbage collection prices all up nearly 6%. The price of rent associated with shelter costs jumped and this is from, here again, we have a president who's trying to say that things are great out there. At the same time, this is a party that wants to protect, they say, the middle class. How's that working? Rent for a primary resident up 5.7% in March of 2023, up 0.4% since February of 2024. Owner's evaluation of rent, the opportunity cost of renting out a home. They say rent because, well, then buy. Actually, that's way up too. For those of you who have either bought a home or trying to, You know the problem there. All right, water, sewer, maintenance services up 5.1% since March of 2023. And up 0.5% since February of 2024. Garbage collection nationwide up 5.8%. Electricity up 5.3%, average nationwide. Repair of household items up 18%. Homeowners and renters insurance up 4.6%. Economists forecast a 0.3% increase in month-to-month figure. Well, hang on. Economists forecast, I don't really care. Well, how often do they just get it wrong? Okay, so let's listen to this. This is caution. CNN.
Core inflation, which is a better indicator of sort of what's happening with underlying inflation, that also picked up. So taking a look at some of the categories we saw in the month of March that continued to increase. So gas prices, that was a pretty big contributor here, right? It was really gas and shelter, I should say, that contributed to more than half of the increase.
Has shelter gone down at all? I mean, I can't even remember a month where it's actually we've seen a decrease, right?
It's a really important point. It hasn't. And so we had been hoping, actually, because if you think about shelter, if you think about rents, for example, 12-month leases, we were hoping that this was a lagging indicator, that we would actually start to get some progress with shelter, but that didn't happen.
Okay, so, and they can, again, that's CNN doing that, and they just continue on with those numbers. You get the idea. This is what I was talking about, the inflation numbers that I was listening to at the top of this hour, which told me that, again, we have a Biden administration who either they don't know and they're out of touch, which is certainly a possibility, or they do know, but it's an election year, so they're going Orwellian on us. If they keep telling us it's not happening, then we believe it's not happening. However, because you got to go out and spend money on this stuff. You got to open up your wallet and pay for this kind of stuff, which can be more difficult to do. So here again, what's the solution? Because there's the problem. What is the solution? And there is one. And the solution to the problem is what you hear me say all the time: less government, not more. Government caused this problem. Government is not going to fix the problem by more government. More government makes more inflation. The more they try to do to fix this, the more programs, the more tax money they need, the more rules and regulations they write. That's more bureaucracy, which continues to raise the cost of things, because there's always a cost of compliance with bureaucracy. If the president would love to lower inflation, a number of things: quit borrowing money at insane rates. That would help a lot. Quit trying to push things on us like electric cars and wind and solar, to name a few. Quit trying to regulate everything else. Get out of it and let the economy do what it naturally does. And when that happens, prices tend to fall as competition takes over. But also, it's just less expensive to create things. In general, the less expensive it is to create things, the less expensive it can be for those people who purchase. And for you who think, well, but retailers will keep prices high because they want to make money. This is where you got to think more like a retailer. There's a bell curve. If they keep raising prices, fewer people can buy. They have fewer customers. They're not making more money. You got to find the sweet spot. You want to charge enough to make a profit, but not so much that the customers can't afford it. So there's always a bit of a natural bell curve that happens when things like this are just left alone.
Welcome to Woke Radio, WOKE. It's the top of the hour, and we're sponsored by Rainbow Mood Hair Color, the hair dye that changes your hair color depending on what's pissing you off now.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, talk about programming the weather just right. So we have just a gorgeous weekend coming up. Then next week, while you're stuck inside at work, is when the weather gets sketchy again. You see how this works here? Don, this is just perfect programming. I compliment you on this.
Yeah, 1 week out of 52.
Yeah,
Finally got it right.
I'm trying to give you credit while I can anyway. It just gets better and better next couple of days.
Yeah. Tomorrow is really going to be a day where temperatures really jump up and they'll stay very warm through the weekend. So if you need a note to play hooky tomorrow, I'll sign it.
Okay. We heard that. Everybody heard that? Okay, continue on. But that means we get through the weekend. So we're what, in like upper 60s, lower 70s, maybe?
60s and lower 70s will be really common. There'll be a lot of sun. We'll have some high clouds at times. And the wind is really not a factor. It'll be a little bit breezy in the afternoons. But for April, the second weekend of April, and compared to where we were a week ago, pretty nice. So get out and enjoy it.
Okay. Now, when we get into next week, the best word I could find to use is, it's not bad, it's just sketchy if you want to go outside.
Yeah, it starts Monday. We have a weak system that'll come through. Showers, even a little bit of thunder will be found across some parts of the state Monday and Tuesday. The drop-off in temperature won't be big, but where we do see it get cold will be mid to late next week. A larger system comes out of British Columbia. So this weekend, it's desert air. By the middle to the end of next week, it's Canadian air. So you can imagine the change that'll take place. So as we get to the second half of next week, rain and snow is looking pretty likely across the state. Much colder temperature readings. But the back and forth of this time of year is exactly what you'd expect. The good news is the timing is right for a change, as you said, for the weekend.
So at one point it smells like tacos, and then later it smells like bacon.
I've never heard that analogy before, but I like it.
Translate that before. Real quick here, if you had a chance to look, they just updated it. They gave a look at that drought monitor, which I like watching here. And since it was just updated this morning, I looked at it and thought, I really expected to see a bit more good news for like northeastern Wyoming and up into the Black Hills, even up in the Bighorns. And yet they still show a little bit of color as just off with just a tad of drought.
Yeah, they need more. And a lot of times that drought monitor, even after a week, will be delayed till they get more information in.
Okay.
But they need more. The moisture helped for sure, but a few more inches of precipitation over the next several weeks would certainly get that area back to white.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with day weather. So, okay, see, this is some good news coming for the next few days. Into next weekend. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, when you go to watch television, home movies, stuff like that, are you ever picking up like a DVD or anything like that anymore?
No. I have some.
Yeah.
And I may have a DVD player somewhere.
Okay.
That actually would be pretty good, is just get to just plug it in.
Yeah.
However, it's not going to fit 16 by 9 TVs.
Okay.
I think.
Well, now, the reason I asked is there was a time when we started gathering a collection of DVDs at home, much like books on your bookshelf.
Yeah, and you can put them in any order you want it,
Well, I say this, our friend DJ Nike off the radio station here in Casper, Wyoming, noticed that in Best Buy, they're no longer selling, they had a whole DVD section of movies. It's gone.
Okay, that's because you can stream them now.
Yes, there's absolutely no point to it. And I have noticed other places they used to sell, Blockbusters were gone a long time ago. Mm-hmm. There's still some red boxes out there in front of a few stores.
A few, yes. Now, look at it also this way, too, is that, remember when albums were very popular and then nobody was selling albums, because of CDs and stuff like that.
Right.
And now who's making a comeback?
Yeah.
Albums. So maybe DVDs down the road may or may not make some kind of comeback, but I don't know. Like those red boxes, it's kind of weird. It's like you have to, they have those hoods.
Yes, you have to put over there,
so you can see the screen in the sun.
It's not like someone can't sneak up behind you while you're under the hood. But anyway, I've often thought, though, there are some people who have certain movies they really like and will watch multiple times, so they enjoy having a hard copy of it. So they don't have to worry about, well, is it somewhere? Am I going to have to pay for it again?
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. But I think the days of DVD sections that took up your store, or the last time I walked into somebody's house and saw a bookshelf filled with DVDs, I think those days might be past us for quite a while. Now I got to wonder, what replaces what we're doing now?
Your regular internet.
Yeah.
Or maybe actually go to the movie theater. And
I do that when a movie demands a big screen and surround sound.
Yes.
I will go to the movie theater for that. Other than that, I just wait till it comes home.
I'll buy that. High school soccer from last night. First for the boys, Cheyenne East over Cheyenne South 4-1. And tonight, Cheyenne Central will be in Laramie. For the girls, East and South played to a scoreless draw last night. And then tonight, Laramie will be at Cheyenne Central. Our latest WyoPreps.com high school soccer polls are out. In 4A boys, Cheyenne Central rated first, Kelly Walsh second, Jackson third, Thunder Basin fourth, and Sheridan fifth. In 4A girls, Kelly Walsh rated number one, followed by Jackson, Laramie, Natrona, and Campbell County. In 3A boys, Worland ranked number one, Torrington 2, Cody 3, Powell 4, Green River 5. And in 3A girls, Cody leads that list, followed by Worland, Green River, Powell, and Douglas. In the girls high school softball, Cheyenne Central over Cheyenne South yesterday 9-8. And our latest WyoPreps poll for the softballers, Cheyenne East rated number one, Thunder Basin 2, Campbell County 3, Cody 4, and Laramie 5. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies are 3-10 on the year after a 5-3 loss to Arizona and Denver yesterday afternoon. Rockies got a decent game pitching-wise from Austin Gomber, who threw 6 innings. He gave up 2 runs and 6 hits. The Rockies bullpen failed them, allowing 2 runs in the top of the ninth as the Diamondbacks held on for the win. Colorado has the day off. They'll be in Toronto tomorrow. The Masters Golf Tournament starting this morning in Augusta, Georgia. It has been delayed a bit due to storms in the area. Scotty Scheffler is the number 1 rated player in the world and is the favorite to win that deal, which is a lot easier said than done. Yes, Tiger Woods is playing this year, and even we'll just see, even if he makes the cut, he won the Masters 5 times in his career, but has incurred numerous injuries and surgeries. And then coming up tomorrow on College Rodeo at the Central Wyoming Fairgrounds, Casper College will host the 68th annual Roping and Rigging Days. There'll be 2 slack rounds, one tomorrow afternoon at 1 and then Saturday at 10 a.m. Then the first night performance will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. and then Saturday night at 6 p.m. and the last perf will be at 10 a.m. on Sunday. There's only 2 rodeos left in the regular season of the Central Rocky Mountain season, and the College National Finals Rodeo will be in Casper from June the 9th through the 15th. And that's it in sports.
I lived in Augusta, Georgia for a short while.
It's warm, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yes. Beautiful town, though. I mean, just gorgeous southern town. Absolutely amazing. And you'll love living right along the Savannah River. The downtown area is just incredibly beautiful. But you're right. When we get into summertime, Georgia gets really hot and sticky.
And you'd be lucky to actually obtain a ticket to the Masters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just it's one of the hardest tickets in sports. They limit the gallery, and you just can't get in unless you have like some corporate in to the whole deal.
I wonder, do you know how much tickets go for?
I don't. I know somebody who went to the practice round.
Yeah.
And, she said to me, he goes, television does not do that course justice for what it really is when you really see it.
That's what I was saying. I did the short time that I was living in Augusta, I appreciate it because it is one of the most beautiful southern towns that there is. So it doesn't surprise me. I'd love to know how much tickets are and how far out you have to buy them.
Oh, yeah. Unless you just want to parachute in.
Yeah, well, good luck with that because you'll be hauled out if you do. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. News time after that. We roll into open phones. So I got more that I'm going to talk about, but you can go ahead and interrupt me, change the subject if you want. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming. 6 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Thursday. That weekend right there on the horizon. Look close. You can see it.
Today's show was sponsored by pretzel flavored mustard.
Yum.
Why eat the pretzel when you can just eat the mustard?
And no chewing involved. The most dangerous part of this program every single weekday is open phones. And here we go.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject, fine by me. Up to Casper, Wyoming for the next couple of stories. And the first one, in fact, I was asked about this by a couple of people yesterday. I held off on because sensitive topic, and I wanted to wait until everything was in before I said anything. So, okay. Headline, Casper schools, church, community rally for youth in the wake of a fatal stabbing. So here's the story, Reader's Digest version. So at the Casper Mall, a young lady is at the mall, high school age, I believe. And she's being followed around by a group of boys. And it's making her really nervous. And she's like, I think she was in like 14, about that. So because there's a problem, she calls her boyfriend, who shows up at the mall, and he's trying to run interference with her, and there's some disputes going on. I wasn't there. I don't know what was going on. At some point, they go outside, and the boys show up, and they had apparently knives that they took from one of the stores. That's how I heard it anyway. And there was a stabbing. And the boyfriend did not survive it. Now, right away, the reaction of the community, that happened in Wyoming? Really? Now, here's part of the story, and if I got anything wrong, it might be in here. From Cowboy State Daily, helping students struggle with the sudden and violent death of a 14-year-old classmate has been the main focus of the dean of the middle school. Casper, it's a middle school. That's part of what gets me to. Casper community has been stunned and saddened since the Sunday confrontation at the Eastridge Mall left Robert Bobby Mayer Jr. fatally stabbed and two other teens facing adult first-degree murder charges. There is counseling available at the school for those who need it. Okay. And you can imagine how stunned the community is by this. But even, again, people across Wyoming have dropped little notes here and there. In Wyoming, this happened? And at such a young age, like 14, at such a young age this happens. And my thought is not just for the young man who lost his life, but for the two that have been arrested, facing adult first-degree murder charges and attempted murder charges on some of the others. Okay, they just ruined their lives. I mean, absolutely ruined the rest of their lives at such a young age. And as on the one hand, I kind of wonder where did this come from? Because normally when I read a story like this, it's from some other state. And oftentimes I'm picking on places like California for something like this. And scratching my head and wondering, how is this happening in major cities in America? So in a state like Wyoming, again, we have violence here, but at such a young age. Colby, our news lady in Casper, writes, two 15-year-olds have been charged after a stabbing incident, Eastridge Mall, Casper, Sunday. Juveniles appeared by video camera in Natrona County Circuit Court yesterday afternoon for initial appearances, and it gives their names. Have been charged with first-degree murder, a felony punishable by death or life in prison. Also, one charged with conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault and battery, and petty theft. I think the petty theft has to do with the knives. The alleged co-conspirator, and names are given, is charged with conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault and battery, petty theft. So they're being held on $500,000 and $450,000 bond. Investigation began April 7th. Officers responded to the West Side Eastridge Mall at the Hibachi Grill and found an unconscious individual identified as Robert Dean Mayer Jr., who had suffered 2 stab wounds. First responders, of course, he didn't survive. According to affidavit supporting the charge, multiple people witnessed the incident, advising that there had been an altercation between the two subjects. One source told investigators that they had been with Mayer leading up to the events. He alleges that his girlfriend had called and claimed that the two were following her and another girl around the mall The sources say that they got a ride to the mall to keep the girls safe. Allegedly, once they were outside of the entrance of the doors to the mall, Harris slammed Mayer to the ground. Plunkett began stabbing him in the abdomen region. There's some video of the incident, apparently, too, that goes with this and statements made. You can read the full story. Wake Up Wyoming website has this for one. Also, for those in the Casper area, K2 News will have that as well. And again, I scratch my head and wonder, Wyoming? Really? And at such a young age was my next two things. That this is the order which had just popped into my head randomly. One, first off, in Wyoming. Two, at such a young age. And then three was I started thinking about the friends and family and so on of the young man who has died. And, of course, the young man himself who has died. But then I started thinking about the young men who are involved in either attempted murder or the murder of. And really, their lives, it keeps going back to, they just completely screwed their lives. They're being charged as adults. They just completely screwed their lives. Where do they go from here? So it could range up to the death penalty, although I look at this age, it's more like a very, very, very long time in prison at this age, is what I say will probably happen just based on past cases like this in other states. And I have to say, in other states, correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, I don't find cases like this, especially at this young age here in Wyoming, which has to make me again wonder, so what's happening here? What went wrong here? How did this get so out of control here? And then if you're thinking, do we have to worry about any more of that? I hope not. I would like to see, though, this is a valuable lesson for the entire community, and by that I mean all of Wyoming. That's a very valuable lesson about our youth. Why are you following and harassing a couple of young girls? That's the first part of it. And then as the situation gets out of control, what makes you go and steal some knives and do this? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered about why did, even at this young age, these young men not have it in their heads that you don't do stuff like that. You just don't. A lot of questions need to be answered here. 8:15 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97 Woods, the phone number.
If it's happening in Wyoming, it's on Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods from K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97 Woods.
8:20 is the time. Phone number is 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. I was just reading the story about the unfortunate stabbing outside the Casper Mall that was on Sunday, and some of the reaction I'm getting to is I Am Right, which is in Evansville. Thankfully, there are good mental health folks to help kids into Casper schools, and I'm glad to see that. I would also like to see a little bit of work done maybe with the parents too. We've got a lot to consider. Also, he says, and they stole the knives before the boyfriend came along. Was rape the plan? I don't know about those details of the story, so I can't really answer that. Hi, John over in Granite Canyon. I would look at the parents, and was there a father in the house? Okay. Worth looking at the family situation, because you got to wonder how the kids were raised if these boys thought that this was a good idea. Hey, let's go out back and beat them up and stab them. Or why were they following the girls around, making them uncomfortable? Where did they learn their manners? We'll start with that. But okay, next one, Blue Eyes in Douglas. It also makes me think that if these two have such violence in them, what kind of family life do they have? And also, if they were people who witnessed this going down, why didn't anybody interfere, jump right in the middle of it? That's a good question. Yeah, for those people who might have been in the area, did anybody try to diffuse the whole situation? Okay, so you can see a lot of questions for the community, which is why when the story first came out, I waited just a bit to get more details before I said anything about this, because we need some time again, not just because it happened in Casper, not just Casper, but as a state, we need to take a look at it and think, we don't usually hear stories like this in our region. So when it does happen, we should take a good look at why something like this would happen. I often tell you stories like this that come from major cities around America, and I'm usually picking on like California or Illinois or New York or places like that. Not here, which is why it's so much of a shock to us. Again, 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Also, as long as I'm up in that area, Casper City Council reluctantly okayed $400,000 to keep the Sky West flight. Yeah, the story here says a bad medicine metaphor, again, Cowboy State Daily, and the potential for economic development in the future helped Casper City Council swallow a bitter pill Tuesday, and it approved hundreds of thousands of dollars for its share guarantee of continued air service at the local airport. The council gave thumbs up at a workshop session to spend up to $400,000 for the city's portion of the minimum revenue guarantee, the payment to SkyWest Airlines. That payment pledge will help ensure the continuation of daily SkyWest Delta connection flights to and from Salt Lake City. Now, I've taken advantage of the one going down to Denver, whether I was in Casper or in Cheyenne. And if you do it right, it's not all that expensive. You got to look for when the ticket deals are, and you can really get some good flights out. And I do that for the convenience of it, because those two airports, whichever one I might be at, is a lot more convenient than driving all the way down to Denver and dealing with everything that's Denver and the Denver airport. I would much rather just go ahead and buy the ticket and do that. Nice to have, but I hate the idea of subsidies. I haven't flown to Salt Lake City, but heading down to Denver to catch a connecting flight can actually be really a convenience. But I hate the idea that in order to keep it, we got to pay taxpayer money. I'd rather not. I know some people disagree with me on that. I'd rather not. Council members listened to a presentation by Fly Casper Alliance, who told them the alliance was asking for a commitment for the last half of 2024 as the state considers its budget and own contributions. Quote, other places in the state have a share burden, and it varies between counties and cities and other municipalities. It is based on that they are, what they're here to ask significantly contribute. They're asking for $400,000. The contribution will be added likely to the Natrona payment as well as money from the state. So it's, I guess, overall more than. County commissioners recently agreed to pay up to $650,700 for 6 months of this year. And the state's portion of this was $433,800 for the airline's estimated $1.08 million guarantee for the flight to Salt Lake City. While they eventually gave the okay to the expense, commissioners also said they would likely not approve another payment without entities in the region paying as well. Casper Natrona International Airport Director told the council that keeping the flight makes the region more attractive for things like the Reno air races. Now, there's something I would like to see. The Reno air races would be a really big deal for Wyoming. I would love to. For those who don't know, Reno air races is like the NASCAR of airplanes. It's airplane racing. It's really cool. And Reno, Nevada got rid of it. So they're trying to attract, they say, Reno air races into the state of Wyoming would certainly help. I also was bothered, same region, a gentleman who I like but disagree with, wants to bring that top-notch professional-grade shooting range to Wyoming, and it would cost the state about $10 million. Another thing that I look at and think, hey, how about you do that with private money rather than state taxpayer money? And you see why I'm such a tightwad with the state's money. Leah is up in Casper. The Salt Lake City flight is the most reliable service in the Casper airport when Denver flights cancel. Oh, that run? Okay, so what she's saying is the the Salt Lake City flight will still run when Denver cancels, so at least you can get out somehow. Yeah, okay. Leah, I just hate the subsidies for things like this. I'm more of a free market guy. Wyoming in Douglas says, as dad of a boy of these ages, so we're going back to the stabbing that happened, this scares me, but also breaks my heart. It's so crazy to think this can happen in Wyoming, in Casper. Then there's this note here from Tumbleweeds. Wait a second. In Lance Creek. Hang on, Tumbleweeds. Every so often the app updates, and I have to go chasing. Someone sent me a note, and I have to go chasing the note because the app decided to update the notes. Okay, so how about immigration status of those stabbed? Where are they from? Okay, I don't know the answer to that. So I'm not going to assume anything because I don't know the answer to that. But okay. Let me see. Was this a setup by the girlfriend also? You're asking a lot of conspiratorial questions. So I would say don't go wondering all of this like you are right now, because you let the authorities work out the details and you'll find out. But right now you're asking a lot of questions that I'm looking at going, you're getting off into the weeds is what I'm saying anyway. So just wait. This is why I waited. Before I started making all sorts of comments on things, I wanted to make sure I had as many facts as possible so I can go ahead and put this together. But I do agree with our friend in Douglas that he's a father. And so, wow, think about how it scares him as a father that something like this happened in the community where normally stuff like this flat out doesn't happen. So there are a lot of questions to be asked. Give it time for those questions to be asked. And then we figure out where we go from here, not just as a community, but as a state. We figure out how we handle something like this, which has to be different than places that I usually pick on. California, Illinois, New York City. Washington, D.C. is horrible as well. Detroit. Places like that where it's typical to hear about an incident like what just happened at the Casper Mall is typical in those cities. I think where it's surprising to us is it's not typical here. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of, that's going to be news time. Right after news time, update on your weather forecast. Now, the questions and comments that I'm reading right now are coming off the Wake Up Wyoming app. These people can send me notes because they have the app, which they downloaded free from the App Store, just Wake Up Wyoming. Hit the chat option, send me a text, or call the show, 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Start your
Woods,
day the right way. Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods.
Just going to make your head explode. But,
join the conversation at
every so often we have
888-97 Woods.
One of these cases. There's in Seattle a dance squad, and when they do their dance routine, they're all dressed up like American flags. The shirts they wear, for example, red, white, and blue, stars and stripes, and all that kind of stuff. They wear cowgirl hats with red, white, and blue on them. And same with their pants. Their pants look like blue jeans, but they have streamers on them that are red, white, and blue. So it's a dance group, right? Story says members of a regional women's country line dance team were reportedly kicked out of a Seattle dance convention after organizers claimed their American flag-themed shirts made some attendees feel triggered and unsafe. So, for those people and it was probably one or two people, probably one, I feel triggered and unsafe. Well, get over it. That's the American flag there. But whoever was saying that they felt triggered and unsafe, what happened to them? What was their educational background here? I want to know. That gave them the idea that American-themed stuff was supposed to make them feel triggered and unsafe, rather than proud and safe. Over the weekend, story says, Emerald City Hoedown in Seattle. The borderline dance team was set to perform, but were essentially told they weren't welcome by the Dance Association. The dance community, again, over the American flag. It's the LGBTQ plus dance community. Over the American flag themed shirt. So again, what happened to them, that person or persons, that makes them think that things that are themed American are unsafe, or they should feel triggered by it? They should feel the opposite of that. Quote, unfortunately, what our team was met with upon arrival was that our flag tops were offensive in some way to convention goers. There was a small group that felt triggered and unsafe. I kind of wondered maybe competitors who were afraid, but anyway. Co-captain, Lindsay's her name, spoke with some reporters, explaining that their costumes are sparkled, small percentage, with, again, well, it's a big red, white, and blue T-shirts and cowboy hats and stuff like that. And maybe over the years they've had the occasional someone who complains about that, but it's been so incredibly rare. So, quote, at first we were told we would just be booed and yelled at. Really? Again, you're wearing American-themed. All right. This did not deter us, the young lady said, but we were given an ultimatum: remove the flag tops and perform in either street clothes, which we didn't bring, or they would supply just generic shirts. So they didn't perform at all. Effectively, we were asked to leave. Quote, we didn't speak for our team. We speak on behalf of them who have no choice. This, he said, as we know, this would happen. There really was no choice in our minds. It was a unanimous no. We get to wear this or we're not going to go at all. I still am really just blown away whenever someone puts up an American flag. Can't put that here. That triggers people. Happens at some high schools now and then. And then something like this. Bob is in Gillette. Hello, Bob.
Hey, Glenn, how are you today?
Good, sir. What you got?
Hey, I got something positive for Wyoming this morning.
Good.
Casper is on the short list to get the Reno Air Race.
I am aware of that. Yeah, I've been watching. There's like 3 cities left, and Casper is one of them.
Yep. Yeah, I seen that on one of the YouTube aerial things that flying that I watch all the time. So I just thought it'd be great to pass it on.
Okay. Well, the Reno Air Races, for those who don't know, I've often, Bob, called it like the NASCAR of air races. And we did have a famous air racer that was in the Casper area. His plane is still at the airport. He's since passed. But he was one of the most winning air racers in the Reno Air Races, and he was out of Casper, Wyoming. It would be great to bring the races back and remember him.
Yeah, I understand it's Casper, Pueblo, or Albuquerque.
That's right, yeah. Pronounced properly Albuquerque, according to Bugs Bunny.
Okay. But, hey, I mean, that'd be great to have that come to Wyoming.
That would be, yeah. All right. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. Yeah, I had talked about that before, but yeah, since he's bringing it up, let's take a look at it. So the Reno Air Races, again, that's like, it's racing, but instead of a track with cars, it's airplanes. And there's different kinds of airplanes, too. So you're going to get all sorts of different styles and kinds of airplanes racing in different races. Everybody's got to be sort of in their own league. And it happened in Reno, Nevada for many years, but then finally Reno, Nevada decided, well, we've gotten too big and we can't handle this. It's so noisy and dangerous and so on. There was some time ago an air race in Casper that happened years ago. It was just one attempt, and it was Ed Good, who was an air racer, who is famous among air racers, and he was out of Casper, Wyoming. His plane is still there, owned by somebody else. Let's see, Michelle and Cheyenne. What's the age group of the dancing group? High schoolers, high school young ladies. Yeah, that's what got me going back to the dancers real quick here. This is like a high school dance group. To me, they look like they're juniors and seniors is the impression that I get when I look at them. And their outfits, again, they're wearing blue jeans that have tassels on them. And they have shirts that are red, white, and blue stars and stripe kind of theme. And they're all wearing cowboy hats. And the idea that they would show up to perform a dance routine, but you can't do that because wearing the stars and stripes in red, white, and blue is triggering to people. Now, I prefer that. I like what they said. As a group, they decided, well, if we're told that we have to either wear something else or we can't compete, then we're not going to compete because that's just wrong. And I appreciate them making a stink about it. Make sure it makes a lot of local news and national news as well, because this goes back, as I said, to high schools. When a kid shows up driving to high school in his first car, and he's got an American flag, let's say, waving on it or something like that. And the high school says, you can't do that because that's triggering. It might upset people. This, in case you didn't notice, the country is the United States of America, so get over it. And what you should feel is proud and safe, not triggered. It just kills me every time something like this happens, but I also appreciate that it does happen so we can fight back against it. But I also want to know, what were the people who say that they were triggered, what were they taught? I really want to know that. What was said to them that makes them afraid of the American flag and triggered by it and upset by it? I'd really love to know what was said to them. There's a lot I want to learn on this one.
You can't control how good a day you're going to have, but you can control how weird a day everybody else has. Be the weirdest, most confusing, unhinged part of everybody's day.
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say the best talk show host in the state within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
.48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's waiting by. Frank, headline, O.J. Simpson dead at 76.
Today?
Yes, just now.
Okay. And he'll go down as he murdered those two people.
Okay. And after cancer battle, and that ridiculously large TV they put in my studio, that's all they're playing right now. That's it. It's just nonstop with that. And they have to go through his entire life history, too.
Again.
Yes.
And he murdered those two people.
Yes, that's what it's all. Now, another one, let's see. Okay, so thanks, because people look stuff up when we talk about it. Okay, so let's go take a look at, if you want to go see the Masters, there's tickets you can get for about $100 or up to $140, but good luck.
You're not going to see those kind of tickets.
No, I am surprised that. One of the things.
No way.
No, you're not.
No way.
No, one of the things that surprises me and a lot of people is the price of the tickets. They're not as expensive as you might think.
You're not going to get into the Masters for $100. Ain't happening.
Yeah, and no, but according to the story, tickets. This is the story I'm reading here. Tickets are generally $100 for the practice rounds.
Yes.
$140 for the tournament.
You're still not
according
getting
to golf.com.
No.
However, tickets, the odds of getting them without a lottery, you're probably not, because you're going to, again, it goes way back. Now, what I was looking for is how many people, an estimated 40,000 fans each day will be there. Wow. And about
none of them paid $100 to get in.
Well,
none.
Going by well, okay, now, select badge patrons for the tournament. Those badges, and that gets you up close.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's $450. So I would say this is a lot like, let's say you go to watch a baseball game. Are you up in the nosebleed section, or are you up close?
And those badges, nobody paid $450 for those.
You think
either.
so? You think it goes more than that, despite what golf.com is saying?
Much more.
Okay.
Much more. There's a secondary market.
I gotcha. Okay.
No way.
But about 12 million people. How much do you think a beer costs while you're there? You want to buy a beer?
Actually, what I hear at the Masters is that food and beer is actually reasonable.
Oh, holy cow.
They don't get you there. I mean, I went to a golf tournament. I was paying $11, $13, $15. Not there, evidently.
Here again, that's to get into it and all that. Television viewers, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. About 12 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's people watching. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies have a record of 3-10 so far in the month of April. They're 5. They lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks yesterday, 5-3. Rockies got a decent pitching game-wise from Austin Gomber through 6 innings, gave up 2 runs and 6 hits. The Rockies bullpen failed them, allowing 2 runs in the top of the 9th as the Diamondbacks held on for that victory. Colorado has the day off. They'll be in Toronto tomorrow. In girls high school softball, Cheyenne Central over Cheyenne South yesterday 19-8. And in our latest Wild Preps poll, Cheyenne East is rated number 1, Thunder Basin 2, Campbell County 3rd, Cody 4th, and Laramie 5th. In high school soccer from last night, first for the guys, Cheyenne East over Cheyenne South 4-1. And tonight, Cheyenne Central will be in Laramie. On the girls' side, East and South played to a scoreless draw. And tonight, Laramie will be at Cheyenne Central. Our latest WildPreps.com high school soccer poll is out in 4A boys. Cheyenne Central rated 1, Kelly Walsh 2, Jackson 3, Thunder Basin 4, and Sheridan 5. In 4A girls, Kelly Walsh rated number 1, followed by Jackson, Laramie, Natrona, and Campbell County. In 3A boys, Worland is rated number 1, Torrington 2, Cody 3, Powell 4, and Green River 5. In 3A girls, Cody leads the list, followed by Worland, Green River, Powell, and Douglas. And coming up tomorrow in College Rodeo at the Central Wyoming Fairgrounds, Casper College will host the 68th annual Roping and Rigging Days. It'll be 2 slack rounds, one tomorrow afternoon at 1, and then Saturday morning at 10. Then the first night performance is tomorrow at 6 p.m., then Saturday at 6 p.m., and the last perf will be at 10 a.m. on Sunday. There's only 2 rodeos left in the Central Rocky Mountain region season, and the College National Finals Rodeo will be in Casper from June the 9th through the 15th. That's it in sports.
So for those people who do pay to get in to watch the Masters, understand that's the only chance they'll ever get to get on that green and walk around on it at all.
Oh, yeah.
Because
it's very private.
It's a private club, So
Very
in order
private.
to become a member, you have to know somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, and so what happens is another member goes away for whatever reason. That leaves an opening, and if you can get good recommendations and you have money, you can get in because it's a private club. It's also a dudes-only club.
No.
Not anymore?
They've allowed women in there.
Oh, they did? Okay, because for the longest time...
was it Condoleezza Rice is a member? But the entry fee, I mean, to be a member, I wouldn't even want to...
No, not at all. No, it started
6 figures and then maybe 7.
Yes,
Who knows?
it started with some rich guys in Augusta, Georgia, who were tired of playing the local course, so they made their own. Yeah, and that's why it was a men's-only club for the longest time. I didn't know they started letting women in, but for the longest time, men's only, because it was just a bunch of friends that owned their own private golf club. Yeah, that's all it was.
And they had all hand money.
Yeah, it's not open to the public at all. So if you can get tickets to go see it, that's the only time you're ever going to walk around on that grass.
Once in a lifetime experience.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on, as a private club, they can do whatever they want. It's their land. It's their club. They can do what they want with it. Coming up on 9 o'clock. So we got local news coming your way, update on your weather forecast, and, national news is going to be tossed in there, too. Then you and I get back into it again. So Wake Up Wyoming. 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Thursday. I swear I can see the weekend from here. Put the news on hold for just a bit because we got to go over and talk to Heather from Donor Alliance. Because, Heather, you have a lot going on this month. I mean, you're keeping busy out there.
A lot going on. Never a dull moment, but it's all for a good cause.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, what is Donor Alliance?
So Donor Alliance is a nonprofit organization that facilitates organ and tissue donation for transplantation in most of Wyoming and Colorado. We honor a donor's decision to give the gift of life, and we walk alongside the family during the organ recovery process to ensure their loved one's gifts are safely received at transplant centers in a timely manner. And Donor Alliance also recovers tissue to save and heal more lives across our communities. And then the other thing that Donor Alliance does is we manage the Donate Life Wyoming and Donate Life Colorado registries. So what that is when you go to obtain or renew your driver's license or state ID and you say yes to registering as an organ, eye, and tissue donor, you'll get that little heart with the Y on your license. That means you have joined the Donate Life Wyoming registry. And one day your decision can save up to 8 lives through organ donation, and you can save and heal up to 75 lives through tissue donation. So we do a lot, and that was a lot of information, I know.
Yes. Well, for those people who are not aware of this, it really is not that hard to sign up for this. I mean, all you got to do is turn and say yes.
Exactly. When you renew your driver's license or state ID, you just say yes. And, the other thing that's really important is it's important to share your decision with your family. During a difficult time, that heart on the driver's license really provides comfort to families by knowing their loved one's decision.
Okay. So we do have events going on around the area. And also, I understand there's some reminders popping up around us, too.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on this month and this week. So the oil derrick in Casper is illuminated in blue and green this week. That's the National Donate Life colors. So Donor Alliance encourages everyone to go out there this week, take a selfie in front of it to show your support, and tag us on our Donate Life Wyoming social media pages. And I know you had mentioned before that there are also some listeners in Colorado. And tonight, Donor Alliance is going to be hosting a National Donate Life Month lighting event at the Denver City and County building. So we're going to be illuminating the building in blue and green lights. We're going to have free activities, including Donate Life rock painting. And our advocate volunteers are going to be sharing inspirational stories about how their lives have been impacted by donation and transplantation. So it should be a really great night. And then tomorrow is National Donate Life Blue and Green Day. So tomorrow, everyone across the nation is encouraged to wear their best blue and green, dress up your pets, dress up your kids, and really show your support for donation and help us promote the importance of registering as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. And then one last thing is also tomorrow, registration is going to be closing for the Wyoming Donor Dash, which is going to be held next Saturday, April 20th. So this is a run walk that honors donors and their families who gave the gift of life, celebrates transplant recipients, and recognizes those still waiting for a life-saving and healing transplant. So there are nearly 1,300 people in our community who, to this day, are still waiting for that transplant.
Okay, so for those who'd like more information, what website do they go to?
So you can visit donoralliance.org, and on that website, we have more information on our National Donate Life events happening in your community under the How to Get Involved section. So that's donoralliance.org. Now, if you're interested in registering to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, you don't have to wait every 5 years when you need to renew your driver's license. You could do that online at any time. So you can connect to the registry from donoralliance.org, or you can go to donatelifewyoming.org to get right to the registry and register your decision.
All right. Thank you for coming on this morning, Heather. We'll do it again next week.
Great. Thank you so much.
9/11, Wake Up Wyoming.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:17 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. The ridiculously large television they have in the studio with me here is showing nothing but O.J. Simpson since he just died. O.J. Simpson just died, 76 years old, was fighting cancer. And, of course, the television showing the same, like, 4 or 5 videos over and over and over again in a loop while they talk about it. The one thing I think of, and quickly, and I'll move on to other topics here, when I think of celebrities like O.J. Simpson, okay, so you made it big. Congratulations. You're now worth just a ton of money and famous and all that kind of stuff. Congratulations. Well, you should have been leading a clean life already. But at this stage, really clean up your act. The number of people I see that have celebrity status, and now that they have celebrity status, they completely ruin it by the lives that they lead. I mean, they're caught drugs and abuse and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. Murder, on and on it goes. And so they take what was something wonderful that we would all love to have, fortune, fame, and all of that, and they destroy it. So if you ever make it big, anyone listening to me out there, you ever make it big, remember that. You should be leading a clean life now. But especially then, you want to keep that? Okay, clean up your act. Just saying. And actually what I'm going to do now is I'm turning off the television because all they're doing is running those same 4 or 5 clips of OJ and talking about his life, and it's getting kind of annoying to see it over and over again. I keep that television on in case some breaking news happens. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97 WOODS. I just came across this, which I saved in my collection. This is just a great meme. And this relates to the next story that I have. The basic ways government steals your money. And I think about that because it just suddenly struck me. I did my taxes for this year a long time ago. April 15th is Monday. All right. So how you doing on that? All right. It's Monday. Now, the basic ways government steals your money. If you earn it, income tax it. If you live somewhere, property tax it. If you spent it, sales tax it. If you save it, inflation tax. If you invest it, capital gains tax. If you start a business, licenses, which is a form of taxation. If you own a good business, profit tax. If you give it away, gift tax. If you die, inheritance tax. All right, having said that, I came across this story. Doing taxes drives younger generations to tears. Oh, well, okay. I am so glad to hear that, really. Talk about things that are trigger warning. The younger generation who have all these big pie-in-the-sky ideas and would like government to solve all sorts of problems, and then they get their paycheck, and then they have to do their income tax. All right, so here's the story. Few people enjoy doing their taxes. I'm going to correct that. Nobody enjoys doing their taxes. How about that? I mean, who enjoys it? Please look at that sentence again. Few people enjoy doing their taxes. Do you know anybody who enjoys doing their taxes? Name somebody. Bring them to me. I would like to meet them. Nobody enjoys doing their taxes. But for younger Americans, it's stressful enough to make them cry or possibly even send them to a therapist. See, I would like to say to these young people, would you like to get that stress out of your life? Okay, vote for smaller government. We're in an election year. Think of not just your presidential candidate, candidates at every level of government. Who is trying to limit the size of government? Vote for that person. Because by doing so, it also lowers your taxes. Yeah, could even, oh God, some of these young people have even seen therapists. Quote, for me, it's stressful because I don't really know what I'm doing yet, said one Generation Z taxpayer. There are tears every year, agreed a fellow taxpayer named Megan. A recent Cash App tax survey revealed that 54% of Generation Z and 38% of millennials report the stress of filing taxes has either brought them to tears in the past or they expect it will this year. I remember my parents, when it came tax time, to avoid fighting with, I watched them do this, to avoid fighting with each other. They would sit down over a period of several days and go through their investments and earnings and so on, and slowly work on putting their taxes together. Because if they didn't, they would fight. It would stress them out. And that was back when I was a kid, right? Furthermore, 1 in 4 Gen Zers responding say they'll need help from a therapist to recover from the experience of doing their taxes. Oh, my God. Okay. Quote, I'm not surprised that filing taxes is overwhelming and causes stress for Gen Z or millennials, said Brett Wise, head of a financial firm that's out there. He says money is the number one cause of stress for multiple generations. Oh, dear God. Wise says Gen Z and millennials, too. They're very entrepreneurial, he continued. They might own businesses. They might be creators or influencers. They have all of these different various forms of income, and now all of a sudden they have to sit down and pay taxes on all of this. For those people who want government-run universal health care, wait till you see how much you're going to get taxed on that. Survey also revealed 62% of first-time filers are not sure where to get their W-2s or 1099s. He says the best place to start is simply get everything organized. Well, okay, we know that. Important to understand all of these things at income, and then starts to give tax advice after that. But yeah, I think the most important thing to do is vote for smaller government. Because as you vote for smaller government, taxes will go down, and also vote for a different kind of taxation. Don't vote for what we have now. Get rid of things like an income. I'm saying this for future generations. I'm saying do this. Vote for a different kind of government, smaller, and also at the same time, make sure you vote for a different kind of taxation, not income tax, for example, and just less taxation on it. Because right now, everything you do is taxed. Think of something that you do that isn't taxed. And if you're thinking, well, if I use the toilet, it's not taxed. Wrong. You're going to flush that toilet. That's water. You got to pay your water bill, and that's taxed too. So is your income. So no wonder these people are in tears. On the phone is Brad Buckner. Are you in Arkansas, Brad?
Well, actually, I'm in Missouri. I'm in Branson, Missouri this morning. I was down in Arkansas, and I went to Russellville and watched the eclipse.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. Two friends from Denver, my videographer and the guy who runs my website, Chance and Amanda Buell, and I took off. They flew, I drove. Now I'm driving home, and I'm in Branson, Missouri.
Okay. Boy, you really get around. Now, at some point, though, you're going to be back in Wyoming because there's a poker run.
Yes, the poker run. It always draws me back no matter what. And so that would be May the 25th, and, of course, that's Memorial Day weekend. It's a Saturday. And so you can go to LaramiePeakFireZone.org. That's LaramiePeakFireZone.org. And I apologize if the wind is raising cane here. So go to LaramiePeakFireZone.org, get all the information you need, the phone numbers, stuff like that. You can also pay for your poker hands. You get one meal per poker hand. The poker hand is $40. Extra meals are $10 a piece. And it's about 40 miles. You go north of Wheatland, Wyoming on I-25, about 14 miles, and then take exit 94, go west, about 25 miles to the Laramie Peak Fire Zone station. So what we do is we take side-by-sides, quads, motorcycles, pickups, Jeeps, four-wheelers, and you do about approximately a 50-mile run on all dirt roads, Forest Service roads, logging roads, backwoods roads, no blacktop. It's very child-friendly. Anywhere you take your small children, on adventures, side-by-side, stuff like that. Then we all meet back at the fire hall with our best poker hands drawn. You can register Friday from about 3 till 8 o'clock p.m., and then Saturday morning till 11. You go on your poker run, draw your cards. You have to be back at the fire hall before 4 to get your hand registered. Last year, it was, I think, a little over $5,000 for first place hand. So, it's not a little deal. We had 640 paid entrants. We raised a pretty good bit of money for the fire hall to pay for the trucks, tires, maintenance, equipment. Even just things like hoses wear out, fire hoses and things. No paid employees, so that'd be LaramiePeakFireZone.org to get all of the particulars on the information. Or you can call and leave a message if nobody answers, and that would be 307-322-5650. And so, it's just a lot of fun. It's a good fundraiser for a good cause. I tell people, it might be your house on fire.
Yeah.
It might be your land, your property, your buildings, your tractor, and you would wish somebody could come. And that's what we do. We have about a 40-mile radius around the fire hall up at the base of Laramie Peak, Black Mountain area. And we have 4 trucks that are stationed there, 18 trucks total. And so just come and help. Go to LaramiePeakFireZone.org.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate you calling in. Coming up on some local news we got to take care of. After local news update on the weather forecast, you and I go rolling back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. I got an interesting story here about a government-subsidized program that's going to come to an end, which means all people who are relying on these subsidies suddenly are just going to be out of luck, maybe? We'll find out. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Sunday.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. So, got to be careful here. This is from, actually, Nevada public media, but Wyoming public media went ahead and put up this story. And I did a article at the Wake Up Wyoming website and talked earlier this morning about why we should not be sending any money through government. I mean, no subsidies for public media, radio or TV. None. They need to make it as a private enterprise. That should just be cut off. But all right. A federal program that gives eligible households high-speed internet is winding down. Millions of households, the story says, across the country, including Montana, West Region, here in Wyoming, could soon lose internet access. That's if Congress does not extend funding to a subsidized program. The Affordable Connectivity Program provides $30 subsidies for eligible broadband users and up to $75 for households on tribal lands. But the funding runs out in April. Then, of course, you would know my answer to that is then let it run out. And if you're wondering, well, what about those people who can't afford, then they need to do what they need to do to afford it. Okay? If you want that, I understand you want internet. I use internet all day long, every day. Not just for pleasure from family and friends, but business. It can be very important these days. We're connected by this. So make sure you're making enough money to go get it. It's not somebody else's responsibility. John Donsberg with the National Economic Council said, the program has a direct effect on the disenfranchised households. Well, right away, he acts as if these households disenfranchised. So there's no way in life they are just permanently screwed. There's nothing they can do to improve their situation. Nothing? Really? He said 23 million households are enrolled. That's 1 in every 6 households. Nearly half of those are military families, and about a quarter of them are seniors. It's the largest internet affordability program in our nation's history, and it really matters. Well, again, tell me if I'm being cold about this, but my thought is I'm all for people having internet. Like anything else, go earn the money and buy it like everybody else does. I don't like the idea of, well, they're disenfranchised. No, then they can franchise themselves. The Biden administration has proposed allocating $6 billion, which your federal government doesn't have, to fund the program through the end of the year. Oh, just through the end of the year. $6 billion just to fund it through the end of the year. Then how much is it on a yearly basis, since we're only into April? GOP lawmakers who oppose more funding say the subsidies are unnecessary expense for taxpayers and it'll be difficult to enforce eligibility. The program subsidizes more than 275,000 households in Nevada, just alone in Nevada. About 250,000 in Colorado, more than 75,000 in Utah, 185,000 in New Mexico, more than 50,000 in Idaho, and in Wyoming, 20,000 households are affected. Well, to the 20,000 people in Wyoming that are getting those subsidies, I know you're going to hate me for this. But if you would like internet, I would like you to have internet too. That's great. Do what I did. I made sure to get myself in a position where I can afford internet, and I paid for it. And there's what you do. Now, I do know some of my internet comes to me for free, like I'm at work. So I don't pay for this. This is part of the job provides it. Right? So I do have that. But there's, if you need it, I get it. Because in today's world, for those who don't use it that much, it is really important today, especially for people who are looking for work or to maintain their job even. It's kind of an important thing, and that's okay. But here's what a right is. And here's what a right isn't. A right is not a product or a service provided by the government. That's what it's not. Okay? It's something that you're born with. You have a right to life, for example, and liberty, for example, and freedom of speech and thought, that's yours. Okay? A right to defend yourself, including carrying a gun. That's your right. Things like this are rights. Government does not provide. And that's part of what government's supposed to protect your rights, not provide anything. And that's part of what living in a republic like America is supposed to be. Government is not supposed to tell you what you can and can't do, and they're not supposed to provide for you. You're a free person in a free country. That takes a lot of responsibility. So if you look at someone who's using internet and you're not able to because you're not making enough money, then you need to figure out your situation. And one thing, I remember my mom saying this a couple of times to some other people. When I was a kid, she was talking to other adults. And she said, my only goal really in raising my kids is to make sure they're not a burden on society. I heard her say that several times. That we can go out and take care of ourselves and we're not a burden on the rest of society. So for those 20,000 people in Wyoming, don't be a burden on everybody else, even when it comes to your internet. Take care of yourself. And you'll feel a lot better about it doing that anyway, because it's something that you accomplished by the work of your own mind and your own hands, your own sweat. Now you're able to take care of yourself, and you're not being a burden on other people that you don't even know. 9:42 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming.
Ain't no way you'll ever find me behind the wheel of an electric car. I want that 10 miles per gallon, oil leaking, no muffler having, screaming V8 driving down the highway.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I love to provide for you useless information that you can use when you're having a beer with somebody.
Well, that's if I use it.
Well, yeah.
But I'll always drink the beer.
Yes. Oh, well, absolutely, yeah. Well, this is good because let's say there's a lull in the conversation.
Okay, yeah.
And so you got to throw out something random, right?
Like?
Average Americans eat about 36 grilled cheese sandwiches yearly.
A year?
How many do you eat a year?
No, I probably 4, maybe 5.
I might eat like 1. I love grilled cheese sandwiches.
I love them, yeah.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, when I think of that, I think most of them are got to be like kids. Because kids eat more grilled cheese than adults, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But then, so you're an adult and you make the kid a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yes,
you're like,
you're going to have one.
You know
too.
what, I'll have to, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Okay. Now, I'm a professional talker, Frank. Yeah. Most people prefer to have it sliced how?
Not like diagonal.
Yes, exactly. And so let me see. U.S. very clearly a grilled cheese nation. We eat more grilled cheese than we do eat burgers.
No way.
Yes, we eat more grilled cheese sandwiches in a year, enough to fill 900 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
It's a lot of cheese. It's
yeah.
a lot of bread.
Yeah, so a new state-by-state survey, I guess that includes Wyoming.
I guess.
So they talked to a bunch of Americans, and that's how they went ahead and got the numbers. It would be enough to cover 29 8,180 football fields.
That's a lot of cheese.
That's a lot, yeah. Now,
a lot of bread.
Now, personally, of course, I'm a weirdo, Frank.
Yeah, man.
I don't cut my sandwich at all.
Oh, you just have it as is?
Yes. Now, unless, to me, one of the biggest delights ever is a grilled cheese sandwich with some tomato soup.
Well, that's a staple of cold winter days.
Yes, now,
for kids.
You got to take the grilled cheese and dip it in the soup.
Well,
I do.
Yeah.
And so because of that, that's when I have to slice it diagonally. How else am I going to get it into the soup bowl?
Right.
It's got to go in diagonal.
I think diagonal is the tradition of grilled cheese.
I think it kind of is, yeah. But then we'll get into this in a few minutes because I know we got to get you into sports and all that. But then it's a matter of what kind of cheese do you like to use on this. I mean, you can go with the traditional American cheese, like so many people do, but there's a lot of other options, Frank. I mean, there's like a ton.
Yeah, you can have anything, really.
Sky's the limit.
There you go. Coming up tomorrow in College Rodeo, the Central Wyoming Fairgrounds will be the site of the 68th annual Roping and Rigging Days, hosted by Casper College. There'll be 2 slack rounds, one tomorrow afternoon at 1, and then Saturday at 10 a.m. The first night performance will be Friday at 6, then another one Saturday night at 6, and the last perf will be on Sunday at 10 a.m. There's only 2 rodeos remaining in the Central Rocky Mountain regular season, and the College National Finals Rodeo will be in Casper from the June 9th through the 15th. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies 3-10 on the year after 5-3 loss to Arizona. The Rockies got a decent pitching game from Austin Gomber through 6 innings, gave up 2 runs and 6 hits, but the Rockies bullpen failed them, allowing 2 runs in the top of the 9th as the Diamondbacks held on for the victory. Colorado has the day off. They'll be in Toronto tomorrow. And girls high school softball, Cheyenne Central over Cheyenne South yesterday, 19-8. In our latest WYO Preps poll, Cheyenne East rated 1, Thunder Basin 2, Campbell County 3, Cody 4, and Laramie 5. In 3A boys, in high school soccer from last night, first for the boys, Cheyenne East over Cheyenne South 4-1. Tonight, Cheyenne Central will be in Laramie. On the girls' side, East and South played to a scoreless draw last night, and then tonight, Laramie will be at Cheyenne Central. Our latest WyoPreps.com high school soccer poll is out. In 4A, Cheyenne Central rated 1st, Kelly Walsh 2nd, Jackson 3rd, Thunder Basin 4th, Cheyenne Sheridan 5th. In 4A girls, Kelly Walsh rated number 1, followed by Jackson, Laramie, Toronto, and Campbell County. In 3A boys, Worland rated number 1, Torrington 2, Cody 3, Powell 4, and Green River 5. And in 3A girls, Cody leads the list, followed by Worland, Green River, Powell, and Douglas. And the Masters Golf Tournament starting today in Augusta, Georgia. Made a little bit of a late start there with storms in the area. Scotty Scheffler is the world's number 1 rated player. He's favored to win the tournament, but that's a lot easier said than done. Yes, Tiger Woods is in this year. We'll see if he even makes the cut. He's won the green jacket 5 times in his career, but has incurred numerous injuries and surgeries. So we'll see. That'll be it in sports.
So in this survey, there's a lot of debate about how much cheese to bread ratio. The number 1 cheese is American cheese, right? The number 1 bread by 57% is white bread. Yep. Number 2 is sourdough. Number 3 is wheat, 23%.
Well, I've never had a sourdough.
I've never had either.
Yeah.
Let me see. 17% do not cut the bread at all.
Where do people get information like this?
Yeah.
Do they actually fill out a survey about grilled cheese sandwiches?
There are people.
And then you get a prize, which is more grilled cheese sandwiches?
52% cut horizontally, 21% cut vertically, and then, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. 52% cut diagonally. And then there's cutting horizontally, that's 10%, and 21% cut vertically. So there you go.
Cheese.
Yeah, he said cheese, folks. He didn't say cheese. He said cheese. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time. See, now you got to, next time you're in a conversation and there's a lull, just toss that out there. See what you get. Let's wake up, Wyoming.